What's up, everybody? I'm about to show you the exact underwriting system that helped us to complete over 60 wrap deals. But before we get into that, I want to talk to you about a game-changing moment when I realized that I was swinging in the dark with real estate. And when I first started wholesaling, all I knew about real estate was that if I could get a house under contract for cheap enough, I could sell it and make a profit. The majority of the time, I didn't know if I was going to get a $5,000 profit or a $50,000 profit. But I knew that if I could get a deal deep enough, then I'd make money. How much that money was, didn't always know. I really had no idea what my buyers were looking for, what their exit strategies were, how they were analyzing properties. I was basically guessing on every single deal. And then I realized something that changed my entire business. I realized that once you know how to underwrite deals, everything gets easier. Going direct to seller gets easier because you actually know what you can sell a property for. You actually know what the exit strategies look like, and the confidence you have in your numbers becomes much higher. As your confidence gets higher in your deals, you're able to close more deals. Your relationships with your buyers get better because you know what they're looking for. You start to understand what they're looking for as well. And you begin to stop thinking like a wholesaler and begin to think as an investor. Because the name of the game in real estate is not just wholesaling properties. It's not just bird dogging or middlemaning. Why would people get into real estate is to build generational wealth. And so you need to start transitioning from being a wholesaler into thinking like a buyer. And the number of deals that fell through our hands because we didn't understand how to underwrite is insane. So here I'm going to teach you this one skill set that will easily 10x your business. I'm going to show you exactly how it works. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Philip Loudon. I started off as a backpacker, and when I got into real estate, I literally didn't know what a mortgage meant. I didn't know what HVAC was. I didn't know what the components of a house were. I never owned a house. I was living mostly in Southeast Asia, renting. So I was very green, and it's embarrassing, but it's true. I didn't know what the word mortgage meant. And then over the past 5 years, we've done over 200 transactions. Over 60 of those have been wraps and lease options. And we've also raised over $2 million in private capital for our real estate business. And along with private capital, like, it all begins with confidence, and confidence is bred through competence. And so what we're creating here is a level of competence. So the underwriting system I'm about to share is what gives my team and private lenders confidence in every deal that we analyze. So I'm going to show you our underwriting tool called the Deal Maker. This is exclusively available in Wrap Academy. We completely built it in-house. It's designed specifically for underwriting wraps and lease options very quickly and having all the information we could possibly need. So Jacob, who's one of our students, he has done over 20 wraps, and he's become an equity millionaire at the age of 25. And he has around $10,000 a month of fully passive cash flow coming in. We also have Dan, who had a few bad flips in Alabama. He was going to lose tons of money, like tens of thousands of dollars on each deal. And he was able to salvage those. And by selling them on lease options and wraps, in a few weeks, he was able to turn huge losses into actual gains. Kyle is another student of ours who's doing this in Texas while working 60 hours per week. He's on his fourth wrap deal now. So this isn't theory. These are the actual systems that we're using every single day. And so by the end of this video, I'm going to teach you how to underwrite wrap deals in under 5 minutes. So you'll have the same confidence my private lenders have when they're analyzing deals with us. And I'm also going to walk you through 5 critical numbers that we need just as we're analyzing, understanding the value and benefit of these wraps. So before we dive into the Deal Maker, I'm going to break down for you some fundamentals of what makes a good wrap deal a good wrap deal. This is core fundamentals that you need to at the beginning phases of underwriting. And then we'll do an actual deal analysis where I'll walk you through one of our actual properties. You can kind of see what it looks like. And if you guys are interested in having a free underwriting tool that's not as in-depth as the one that we have, comment below, and I'm happy to make a free underwriting tool, because my goal here is to get people from 0 to 1 of underwriting these deals so that you can go from being a wholesaler or someone who is not building lifetime long-term wealth to creating tier 1 financial freedom. Because you do 10 of these houses and you have enough money to cover your burn rates and your monthly expenses. And at that point, you have a choice point. So our goal here is to get everyone into stepping into this exit strategy to get from 0 to 10 houses. So you can get to that tier 1 financial freedom, and you can decide what the next step is. There are many reasons why we love wraps and lease options. It's for a different video on a different day. Now let's dive into the underwriting. So the first question that you have to ask when you're doing a wrap or lease option is, how am I getting long-term financing in place? And there's different answers to that question. The easiest answer is to do creative financing. You can acquire a property subject to by taking over someone's existing mortgage. There's a million videos about subject to and about what that is. So that's when you take over someone's mortgage, and then the financing is already in place. That means you don't have to do any rehab, you don't have to do any refinance, you don't have to do anything to get long-term financing in place. It's already there. That is the easiest way to get long-term financing in place. But there are also other ways. If you're familiar with the BRRRR strategy, You buy, you renovate, you refinance. We have a very similar model. We call it the jacket strategy, where you wrap the burr. So you buy, renovate, refinance, and then on the back end, you seller finance or do a long-term lease option. And that's another way to get long-term financing in place. When you're buying a property subject to, one of the biggest things you have to look at is the entry fee. So with the entry fee, we want to keep those entry fees as close to $0 as possible. When we first started doing deals, all of our deals that we're doing on wraps were all subject to deals, creative finance, seller financing, and these were some of our favorite deals. And we didn't have the money to play around with, so we weren't offering $20,000 down. We were saying, hey, we'll take over your property, but we'll pay like above what it's worth in exchange for coming like basically nothing out of pocket. And people will do it because when desperate times require desperate measures, and if their properties are underwater, they need to get rid of it in one way or another, and we could then take it over, and then we can wrap it, and we can turn what would be a $5,000 wholesale to $100,000 of gross profits over 7 years. So that's step number one. How do I get long-term financing in place? So step number two is, what can I sell it for? And as we get into our actual deal, you'll start to see the numbers. But what we're looking for in many ways with wraps and lease options are affordability zones. But what we can do is, if a property owner can rent for $1,100 per month, that's the market rents, we can oftentimes have monthly payments of around $1,800, right? So we're able to, what would be like a non-cash flowing rental can now cash flow $700 in true cash flow. There's no CapEx, there's no capital expenditure, we're not responsible for repairs. The families have ownership mindset. So we get to turn what would be a bunk rental into an amazing seller finance deal, right? And this is some of the magic of wraps and lease options and how these numbers work. So now I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And on my screen, we can go ahead and start looking at some real deals. So there's my screen, and let's look through the deal maker underwriting tool. Once again, I will build out a free tool if there's demand enough. If you guys want that free tool, comment below and let me know. If there's more than 20 people that want it, I will build this out for you guys so you have a tool they can use to underwrite deals. If you're already ready to dive into wraps and lease options on a large scale and like take over and do it, then reach out to me as well. We do have a mentorship of people doing these deals all across the country. So this is one of our properties. So you see here, this property has a current market value of $220,000. Technically it'd be $210,000 because it appraised for $210,000. Market rents are around $1,500 per month. So if we get a rentometer, put in the address, it's actually a 3.2, not a 3.1. And we'll see that the median is 1,550, 75th percentile 1,734. So that's around where the market rents are. Taxes, you can see here, it shows you can go to public records and find the taxes. We all know the taxes and insurance, monthly insurance. Cool. So now as we look at this deal, we can start to see what the numbers look like. So the market value is 210. We end up selling it for 255. So we're able to sell it for about 10 to 30%, 15 to 30%, or 10 to 30% over market value. We get to accelerate appreciation in exchange for having that in-house financing in place. The down payment we receive is $15,000, and the monthly payments we're receiving are $2,188. So $2,188 is a really nice monthly payment, right? So this is, the market rents are $1,550. We are now getting $2,188. So you start to see some of the magic of this, right? With this cash flow as a rental, our underlying financing is a DSCR loan at 7.88%. That's $1,218 per month in PITI, or $1,428 per month in PITI. So as a rental, like, would this cash flow? That's one of the questions. The answer is no. Like, this would not cash flow as a rental. If it were, maybe be getting $100, $200 a month in cash flow, but like after capital expenditure, which is, an AC breaks, if you repair it, and after vacancy, you're going to be losing money every single year on this deal. So with our model, we don't have any CapEx. The families have ownership mindset. So they're responsible for all repairs. And so with them being responsible for all repairs, we're cash flowing $669.96 of true cash flow. When I say true cash flow, that means that we aren't responsible for any CapEx, right? They're responsible for repairs. Just like when you have a refrigerator break in your house, you're not going to call the bank and say, hey, bank, can you fix my fridge? It broke, right? The bank's the lender. We're the lenders in this situation. And so a deal that would not cash flow otherwise is going to cash flow us over $700 every single month. Crazy. It's really great. So you start to see the magic of this, right? Now let's look at the actual deal. This deal is 3 beds, 2 baths. It's in Grandview. One thing I look for is the vicinity from a major city center. So let's kind of see where we are on a map here. Looks like a nice little neighborhood. It is in the metro of Kansas City. It's a little bit south of Kansas City. So let's see how far it is from Kansas City. About 20 miles, but like within 30 miles from a major mini city center. So we like that. We can look at the house in itself, in the area, and we can see that it's a nice little neighborhood. We're not in a war zone. It seems like a nice little pocket of Kansas City. All the houses are kind of cookie cutter. So That all looks pretty good. We're quite happy with that. The next thing to look at is going to be the demographics of the area. So let's look at the demographics of this area and kind of see what it is. So it's in Granby, Missouri. So the biggest problem that we solved is there's tons of first generation Americans that want to buy houses. They don't have credit oftentimes. A lot of times they have mattress money or they have 1099, they have businesses, restaurants, roofing companies, flooring companies. And so the banks don't finance them. The banks will not finance them. It is the quickest growing demographic of individuals in the United States are first generation Americans. No matter what's going on politically, like still the largest growing demographic. And they want to buy houses and they don't have access to financing. There's other amazing things about this demographic that we work with, but we're going to talk about that in a different video. For now, let's go deeper into the weeds. So Grandview, Latino demographic. Many of our buyers are Latino, not all of them, but we want to know, like, is our main buyer pool, are they in this market? Grandview, that's the wrong Grandview. Or Grandview, Washington is 85.7%. That's wild. Okay. Grandview, Missouri. Okay. 12%. And then let's look at Kansas City. I'm happy with 12%. Kansas City is 11%. But like you can see, if you go to Kansas City, Kansas, which is where we buy a lot of, we're at 35%, right? And that's just like Kansas City, Kansas is prime. Grandview is also fine. Kansas City is also fine. If it's above 10%, I feel pretty good. Okay. So we see, okay, our demographics there, we feel good about it. And then the next things to start looking at is going to be how we're pricing. So a big thing we're looking for is the affordability zone. And we want properties that are affordable housing, affordable living. And this is, every market is different, right? So if you're in California, it's different from New York, which is different from Kansas, which is different from Oklahoma, right? So every market has a difference. And if you have deals that you're looking at and you want to go over them, feel free to reach out to me. Or if you want to double down the strategy, my county link is below. You can book a call with me to talk about your individual market, right? The Midwest market is my favorite market. That's where this model is prime for, because the housing is still really affordable. And then there's some really good rules of thumb you have for the affordable housing inside the Midwest. So I like to sell houses for below $2,000 total PITI. Those sell like hotcakes, right? When you start going above 2,500, it becomes a lot more challenging to sell. And so when we're first getting started in this model, what we really want to focus on are base hits, right? We want singles all day. If we can get single base hits and over again, we're very happy, because when a single cash flows you 500 to 900 bucks a month in cash flow, let's just keep doing that over and over again, right? Oftentimes we're talking about, hey, I had this house that's a $500,000 house outside of Kansas City. You know, it becomes the buyer pool becomes smaller, right? So we really focus on affordable housing. You see this one we sold for 2188. So it's well above what the market rents are, and it's a good house in a good area, right? And so, but it's still in that affordability zone. You know, people come to me with houses that are 3,500 PITI, 4,000 PITI, you know, an hour away from the city. And those are just more challenging. And so we really want to focus on, like, how can we make it so easy for your first five? And we learned this through wisdom. You know, when we first started buying these types of deals, anything we could find on subject to or seller financing, we were taking down. And when we're taking down those deals, we learned the rules of thumb that, like, what sells easy, what doesn't sell easy, right? Because when you have a really expensive house, you now have higher holding costs as well. Some basic rules of thumb. So what our tool does as well, and you can see if we lower the sales price to 200,000, these turn red, the smiley face turns sad. And we don't want that, right? We want to have good numbers. So green, happy, this deal. We do long-term lease options, 30 years, and also seller financing. So if they never sell or refinance, this deal is going to have an overall profit of $256,000 over 30 years. That is one house that we actually bought from a wholesaler that, if we had a wholesale ourselves, maybe we can make a few $1,000s, is going to equal $256,000 over the lifetime of the deal. So based off of the law of averages, the family will sell or refinance within 5 to 7 years. So we always put the 7-year profit on here as well, because we want to, based off the law of averages, what our deals are going to profit us. And most of our deals are at least $100,000 of gross profit over 7 years. So every single time we do a wrap deal, we are planting a $100,000 seed, right? If you want to talk about building tier 1 financial freedom and generational wealth, like, this is the way to get your first $10,000 of monthly recurring revenue or cash flow. Another amazing thing about this deal is that the family that bought the house was a first generation American family. And for them, this is their first time getting access to homeownership in the United States. They now own a home. And many first generation, I'm a third generation American, but American is founded on immigrants. And so the first generation mindset is one of creating a better life for your kids. That is the common mindset that we see amongst a lot of our buyers. And other things we love about this model is it's very recession proof. These families are very durable. They'll figure out how to make it work. And we have a 90% success rate. These families aren't defaulting. We structure in a way that we're able to do good while doing well, provide homeownership for families that deserve it. And we also get to cash flow an amazing amount to plant $100,000 seeds. And this is the ecosystem that I have within this business. We're doing good while doing well. We are in a blue ocean. We're not sitting around doing a commodity product. We are serving an underserved demographic in a way that not many people are doing, right? And that makes this model so much better. So these are some of the really beautiful things about this model. And as you start to sharpen your pencil on how to underwrite and analyze these different deals, you're going to get so much better at everything in real estate. It's not just about underwriting this type of deal. Like this is the type of deal that we focus on because we're buying up these houses. We want to buy these houses. But just understanding like the different strategies that you have in real estate, especially going into lease options and wraps, is going to help you to really refine your acquisition strategy. There were so many deals that fell through our hands when we were wholesaling. I didn't know what I didn't know. We had houses that we were getting that were in livable condition for under $10,000. We would wholesale them for $5,000 to $7,000. If we would have sold them on seller financing or lease options, we could have made hundreds of thousands of dollars per deal that we just wholesale away for a few $1,000s. So this is where we get to transition into. This is where we get to shift. This is where we start to learn how to become investors and escape from being just wholesalers. And every market is a little bit different. So we love the Midwest, but we have students who are in Florida, in Texas, in Oklahoma, in Arkansas, in Alabama, all over the country, in Tennessee, all over the country. And every market is going to be a little bit different. And so everyone's a bit of an analysis. So there's a give and take that comes when you start to do this type of deal. But the more you can sharpen your pencil, the more you can open your mind to possibility, the more you can surround yourself by people that are doing this model, the better off you're going to be overall. And that is what we're here to focus on. That is what we are focused on, is getting away from being just in a commodity business, just wholesaling deals and grinding all the time so we can make money just to spend it on marketing and make limited profits, right? To creating high profit, high margins, low leverage business. And that is where we are. And look, you have a choice point every single day in your life. You can stay stuck in guessing about your deals. What is a deal? Or just do what I was doing for a long time, which is just lock it up low enough, then wholesaled away. Or you can start learning how to underwrite and begin that transition into building lifelong generational wealth away from being in the rat race and grind of where's the next deal coming from? Where's the next money coming from? I'm doing more houses, but all those houses are turning into $10,000 wholesales. My overhead's increasing and increasing. I'm working 60 hours a week and I'm wearing all the hats and I'm not holding on to any assets. And I say that because I know that because that's where we were. I was there. And that was not what I got into real estate for. I didn't get into real estate just to be grinding my gears and not building lifelong wealth, right? I also didn't get into real estate to be dealing with people calling me at midnight because their garage door isn't working, right? I don't want to be a landlord. I want to be a lean lord. I want to build a lifestyle so that I can be hands off, have high dollar per hour in my life and live a stress-free or as close to stress-free life as I possibly can. Right. So that's why we structure everything how we structure it. We structure it in this way so that we can receive mailbox money. I don't deal with phone calls. And we can also plant $100,000 seeds. We can build generational wealth for ourselves and our families. So you can keep doing what you've been doing and not learn how to underwrite these deals really well, or you can take the steps to really begin to underwrite and learn how to underwrite so that you can do more and better deal. So the in-depth underwriting tool is included in Wrap Academy, which is our mentorship. And if you see value in this model and are ready to dive in, or like 1,000%, this is my model, I'm doing it, let's go. Like book a call with me. We'll get on a phone call with myself personally. We'll get you in the group and we'll make things happen. But whether or not you're ready for that, or whether or not you have desire to do that, like take these core fundamentals into your mind, because these are the things that are going to get you to the next level. So good luck, keep underwriting. Comment below if you want a free tool as well, because if there's enough comments, I need at least 20. I will then build out a free underwriting tool for you guys so you can do wraps and lease options on your own as well. Good luck. Reach out to me. There's many links below for you to tap in.